Silent Hill 3 is filled with many disturbing moments, but one of its most terrifying comes from a character you never actually see. No boss fight, no cutscene, just his words left behind in a series of handwritten notes. Specifically, I'm talking about Stanley Coleman, an unseen stalker who obsesses over Heather as she explores Brookhaven Hospital. At first his messages seem harmless, almost poetic, but as you ascend deeper and deeper into the hospital, his tone shifts, his language becomes obsessive, possessive and violent even, and by the end of it, it feels like he's not just watching Heather, but watching you. In this video, I'll be diving into the disturbing story of Stanley Coleman, and why he represents one of the most unsettling elements in Silent Hill 3. Let's begin. Now, Silent Hill 3 is an incredible game that delves into themes of womanhood and many experiences young women such as our protagonist Heather Mason go through. And one of the things that many young girls unfortunately go through is being preyed upon. But hopefully no one has to experience anything quite like this. Heather finds herself in Silent Hill searching for a man named Leonard. When entering Brookhaven Hospital, while exploring we come across a note on a table, and a little doll is seen beside it. And immediately Heather mentions how this presence of the doll must mean that there's kids nearby and how the doll takes her back to her childhood. And remember this theme of childhood and innocence, as it's very important here. The note next to the doll has no title, but opens with a very creepy message. The day has finally come. That's right, the day when you and I will meet. Which at first, you may think this is addressed to someone else, although, unfortunately, we will find out that that's not the case. The next page mentions how the author has always been thinking of us, but didn't know our name or face until today. And things are already starting to get a bit uncomfortable, with the writer now saying that we are the one for him, the one he's been waiting for. And then the author starts projecting onto us that we have been waiting to meet him, and that we're here to rescue him. And the next line is what confirms my creeping suspicions. It reads, "Oh how I love you, Heather." This line sent chills straight down my spine upon first reading it. We just entered the hospital, and despite encountering some nurses on my way in, I haven't seen anyone else, and no one should know I'm here. So the fact we've already been addressed like this directly puts you on edge immediately, and we've barely been here 5 minutes. And we see with the next entry that the doll has more reason behind it, since the author wants us to have the doll to commemorate us meeting, and to wish on everlasting love, with the final entry being the name of this stalker, Stanley Coleman. So we've just entered the hospital, and despite us by this stage of the game being pretty armed, with many guns, melee weapons and protection, this makes me feel so uncomfortable and vulnerable. Now the next note from our beloved Stanley just rambles on about the organisation, presumably the Order, who have apparently locked Stanley in the hospital with a bunch of lunatics. As he described, they did this in order to break his will. Then he turns his attention back onto Heather, saying that if a thing has no meaning, there's no reason for it to exist at all, just as you exist for me. And then Stanley comments on how Heather hasn't taken the doll yet, which he left as a gift for us. He remarks that the gift must have made her embarrassed, and how she's so cute. Again, ending off this note with his name, Stanley Coleman. As unnerving as this note was, it points us in the direction of where we need to go next, so at least there was some benefit to reading it. Our next note we find a floor above. Yet again, Stanley has paired his note with his signature doll. He opens his note by saying that Heather may not realise her true feelings yet, but she senses them unconsciously, and that Heather is trying to get closer to Stanley. Stanley next at least gives us clues on how to open a nearby locked door. He then ends off the note by pushing his advances onto Heather even more. It seems he's growing impatient and he wants us to know it. Isn't it a shame I'm not there? Aren't you irritated? I long for you. But you're so cruel still. I want you, Heather. Signed, Stanley Coleman. Damn, he is one creepy guy. The next note we find in the staircase when heading towards the roof, and it's a short one that doesn't really show his aggression / obsession for Heather, instead mentions of suicide. I also like the rooftop, it makes me want to fly. You too? Signed, Stanley Coleman. If it somehow isn't already clear, this Stanley guy is not okay in the head, and this note adds to his list of deranged characteristics. We then find another of Stanley's notes, which again gives us clues towards a puzzle. And here his crush on Heather really takes an even more sinister turn, with Stanley writing, "Shall I write something of my own? On my chest? Since I can't cut it open to show you my heart? I love Heather. No, something a bit more forceful. I love Heather isn't enough for what I feel. Oh, what tender emotion this image brings." The line saying he wants to show us something more forceful is a key one to look at here. If the feeling of uneasiness somehow hasn't hit you already, it definitely will now. We then find ourselves exploring a section of the hospital dedicated to its most deranged patients. We can explore some decrepit padded cells which once housed Silent Hill's most insane people. And in one of these small dimly lit rooms, again we are faced with the chilling sight of a Stanley Coleman note and his doll. This time the note reveals just how closely Stanley has been watching Heather, within describing her appearance, now detailing how her hair is flowing freely, like the night sky, among other comments on her face. Your pristine glance, like a feast when you smile, with Stanley again showing his dissatisfaction with Heather rejecting his advances of love. But why won't you accept proof of my love? Don't stand on ceremony now. And our next note would be Stanley's most direct letter to Heather yet. Heather, my most sacred lover, I'm always watching you, no matter where you are or what you may be doing. I have never lost sight of you. The lines "I'm always watching you" genuinely filled me with such paranoia when I first read them, and we still haven't seen Stanley to this point, but he has clearly seen a lot of us by the looks of things. Now Stanley's next line genuinely made my heart sink. I know you feel intensely lonely, yet with a single key to this door, those feelings won't stand in the way any longer. This line insinuating that Stanley is only a key turn away from us had me terrified truly, and it gave me such a visceral reaction. It really scared me, and I haven't found a horror game moment that could replicate the feelings I felt while reading this specific note. Stanley then follows us up by saying, we haven't been able to see each other for so long, be patient, it's just a little longer. I'll be patient too, even though I long to hold you in these hands of mine. His creepy tone still hasn't shifted here, and he kind of places words in our mouth by believing that Heather wants him as well. After that note, I just had to save my game and compose myself for a few moments, because that was a lot. However, thankfully our next note from Stanley would be his last. This time the doll that was a gift for us has instead been smashed into pieces, its leg and head severed. The note opens with Stanley saying his goodbyes to Heather. Goodbye, Heather. I'm sorry I wasn't able to respond to your love. It's all over. Stanley says Leonard despises him, because I made fun of it, saying it would come to this. If it weren't for his meddling, I would have been able to meet you in just a little while. Then I could have taken you to my world. A world for us alone, more beautiful than this one. What exactly is his world, I don't want to find out. Stanley then warns us about Leonard, stating that he is not a normal guy. Stanley's next message is his last for us. Farewell, I loved you, Heather, my goddess. Heather, my lover. Heather, my... And the sentence ends there. Stanley's final words to us are very strange, as he's sharing his creepy love for Heather still, without ever signing off with his name like he normally does. And with his final sentence being cut short, I wonder if Stanley was interrupted while writing. Perhaps Leonard did something to him. And while that's the last we would see of Stanley's creepy stalker notes, it's revealed to us later in Brookhaven Hospital that we can actually have a very close encounter with him down in the morgue. In the morgue, we must solve a puzzle which requires us to look at dead bodies with numbers on them. We then use those numbers to figure out a combination lock based on the order of the numbers. And when in this room, we can hear what sounds like a man moaning and groaning, gasping for air. At first this creeped me out, but later context makes this even more scary. After more exploration, Heather hears a phone ring. It appears to be coming from inside a locker. Although it doesn't make much sense, Heather answers.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Oh, I forgot your name.
Who are you?
Oh, okay, thanks. Happy birthday, dear. Who are you? Happy birthday to you. Happy 31st birthday.
And from the other line, Heather hears someone singing happy birthday, which I don't know why, but this always gets under my skin, and I can't explain why. When Heather speaks, she asks the voice if this is Leonard.
Is this Leonard?
That's the murderer's name, not my name.
To which the person on the phone responds by saying that's the murderer's name and not theirs. The phone person then mentions Stanley.
I'm not your beloved Stanley either. He's underground now. His new name is Number 7.
And references Stanley by saying he is underground now, and his new name is Number 7. And come to think of it, in the morgue there was a body labelled Number 7, and when walking past that body, that's what triggered the weird groaning noises. That's when the realization hit me. Stanley was killed, presumably by Leonard or the phone person, and that body in the morgue was him. We were so close to Stanley, and we didn't even know it yet. And that's the last mention we would hear of Stanley Coleman, Heather's psycho love-obsessed stalker. Heather then encountered Leonard, and Stanley was right, Leonard is not an ordinary guy at all. After defeating Leonard, we can finally leave him, this hospital, and Stanley Coleman's notes behind us. Brookhaven Hospital in Silent Hill 3, in my opinion, is one of the best locations in survival horror games, period. And it's largely up to its characters, although some of them are never really seen on screen. From the insane Stanley Coleman who stalks Heather through the hospital, preying upon her and making the player feel very uneasy and vulnerable, to the mysterious phone person who, despite only giving us one interaction, managed to really disturb me. And of course, Leonard himself being, well, vile looking. Silent Hill 3's Hospital is genuinely a masterclass in survival horror design, and I haven't, to this day, played a horror game that made me feel the same feelings I felt while playing through it. Stanley Coleman never shows up in person, but he doesn't have to. His obsession seeps into every hallway, every locked door, and every note he writes. And it always feels like he's waiting around the corner, ready to do who knows what to us. And these feelings of vulnerability are exactly what Silent Hill 3 was going for here. I personally feel like Stanley Coleman's note series is some of the best use of notes in a survival horror game. In survival horror games, notes are often used to give us more lore and context to the game's story and environments, but here they were used to enhance the horror and scare the player. And I truly will never forget Silent Hill 3, and specifically Brookhaven Hospital. Seriously, this is a game that needs to be experienced. Please play Silent Hill 3, I'm begging you. And with my praise and recap out of the way, that's going to be all from me. So I want to thank you so very much for watching this video, and I will see you on my next one. Peace.